Hi, my name's Ellie Greeny and I'm the Commercial Director at Transition Partners. We're a tech recruitment consultancy with an office in Leeds covering the UK market and an office based in Berlin. I've worked within tech for the past 5 years and find the market fascinating. I'm really passionate about helping women not only get in tech, but really advance their career with an exciting industry that can provide endless opportunities. I love networking and finding out about other people's stories. I decided to set up the journey of a woman in tech to share knowledge, wisdom, and hopefully have a laugh along the way. Feel free to get in touch on LinkedIn to see how you can get involved. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Hello everyone and welcome to the journey of a woman in tech. I am so excited today to be joined by Alice Loeser, who's back-end developer at Doctolib. Alice is joining us from Paris today. She's a software engineer with over 12 years working within the industry. She's recently moved to Doctolib, the leading e-health service in Europe. We're looking forward to hearing her experiences as a female engineer working within the Paris tech scene. Hello, Alice.
Hello.
Hello, so lovely to have you on the podcast today. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great, thank you.
Is it a sunny spring day in Paris, or
is your weather absolutely not? No, it's not great at all.
Oh, isn't it? So yeah, it's pretty similar in the UK at the moment, actually. So at least we're in it together. So thanks so much for coming on the show. I know my colleague Sarah James got you involved in the episode, so certainly interested to have you on the show and find out more about the French tech scene as well. But why don't we start then with a brief introduction into your current role? So it's a new role for you. How long have you been at Doctolib for?
I've been at Doctolib for 4 months now. I'm
okay.
on 5 months. Yeah.
And how's that going?
Oh, it's going really well. I love the company. Yeah, it's really interesting, and the mission of the company is really interesting, especially in times like this.
Mm-hmm.
So
the rest of the team all over Europe, because they've got an office in Berlin, right?
They have an office in Berlin and in multiple places in France too.
Okay, cool, fantastic. And how have you found joining a company fully remotely during these COVID, etc., these current times? It must be.
Oh, it was really weird at first because I didn't come to the office for maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
But they managed to do the full onboarding process remotely very well, I have to say, because they are getting used to it.
Mm-hmm.
For now, they had to do it because France was in full lockdown last March. Mm-hmm. And then it went better, and then lockdown again. So they had time to get used to it.
Yeah, that's good.
So the onboarding was really, really good.
That's really good to hear, because there's been mixed experiences from people, isn't it? And like to not meet any team and be working fully remotely for 2 months.
Yeah, but they organized little coffee breaks.
Yeah, so you felt like you knew everyone.
So that's a cute way to have some people to talk to, and you're not just listening to the onboarding process, but also actively getting to know people.
Yeah, I think it's so important, isn't it? It's such a big part of our role in working in teams.
Yes.
Do you feel like you've had to be a bit more proactive as well in joining a new team and having to meet everyone? Have you had to kind of introduce yourself and put yourself out there?
You have to be a little extra, I have to say, and especially during the hiring process that I did mostly full remote. And they tell you before the interviews that you have to be, let's say, extra version of yourself. Like extra nice, extra smiling, extra everything, because you get some stuff lost.
Yeah, it does, isn't it? Those little social cues that you normally have in a face-to-face interview, you just don't have at the moment.
So you have to smile a lot.
Yeah, you definitely do. A bit like today, we're going on YouTube, so we need to make sure we're smiling.
Okay.
Good stuff. Okay, perfect. And what about your journey then? Let's talk about how did you get into tech and how you 12 years in engineering now, how that's progressed along the years.
I haven't been working for 12 years, but if you count my 5 years in engineering school, yes, it's 12 years.
Okay. Then. Wow.
I started because I liked science after high school and got into a really old school engineering school. Mm-hmm. And then I changed after 2 years to do my master's in a school more web-oriented.
Okay, fantastic. And so you were studying what engineering what type of engineering were you specifically working in?
During the first 2 years, it was mostly mathematics, physics, and of course, computer sciences. And then after the 2 first years, I moved to more let's say, less science and more computer science.
Okay. What was the first language you learned?
C.
C. Okay. I thought it might be as well like that, maths and the science. You could normally find Pythons as well. Quite C and Python are usually, aren't
No,
they?
for us it was C, C++, but I really don't remember a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. And
but
so
it was
final...
a really old school way of teaching. It was no web application at all.
Yeah. Okay. And so as soon as you started learning to code then, did you think this is definitely for me, or how did it? Yeah, you knew straight away.
Yeah, I did. I liked physics as well, but coding was so much fun, and I did a little more web-based course that was doing JavaScript, just cute little stuff, moving objects around and blah, blah, blah. And I was thinking that it was really for me.
Good for you. Amazing. So then you finished university, and what was next for you?
I did my last internship in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
Which was
amazing.
Lots of fun. And then I went back to Paris, and I was like kind of being free-spirited and everything, and decided to go freelance, which was a huge mistake because I had no experience.
So early in your career.
I had no experience in anything, in project management, none at all, and I was really junior, so I don't think I had a good level. But one of the contracts
confidence was there.
The confidence was there. One of the contracts I had as a freelancer, they actually hired me as a backend developer.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So that was nice. Yeah.
Yeah. How long did you try freelancing for?
Less than a year.
Yeah. Yes. At that stage in your career, I mean, it's great to do it further on, isn't it? And so much opportunity.
But no money at all. That was, I started living independently in Paris by myself, and I had no money at all. It was really not the greatest decision.
Do you think that's something you'd go back to then in a few years' time, or if later on?
I don't think so. I think it's too stressful for me to handle the project management side and all the money thing, and I like doing development only.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool, fantastic. So then you joined the other business then as an engineer for them, so a software engineer. Yep. And tell me about that. Tell me about your experiences and your first proper job.
Well, it was actually in a communication agency.
Okay.
So it was backend, but not, I wouldn't say engineering stuff. Not really. And it was a lot of fun because we were doing websites for huge companies, and it was really challenging, and I learned to deliver fast and efficiently. But let's say that in that kind of job, you don't focus on the quality as much, of course. Yeah. And so after 4 years, I thought it was time to change, and maybe I didn't want to get behind on the level I should be having technically.
Okay, amazing. And tell me about your time since then, because you've had a few jobs between that and Doctolib, right?
Yes, I did.
And what languages were you doing at this point?
PHP.
PHP, okay. And is that we're still predominantly PHP?
No, I do only Ruby now.
Oh, right, okay.
After 6 years of PHP, I changed to Ruby.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I mean, in the UK, I don't know whether it's similar over in France. I'm sure it probably is, but the past year, there's been this like resurgence of PHP, like everyone, I think because of the whole impact of COVID, everyone going back online and e-commerce, but PHP has just shot through the roof, and we just have not got enough developers.
PHP is really big in e-commerce.
Yeah, and right now, obviously that's where everyone's making money. So it's we haven't got enough good engineers in PHP in the UK.
I worked in e-commerce doing PHP after my work at the communications agency. Yeah.
Amazing, fantastic. And what sort of lessons did you learn along the way then?
I learned that I should be more confident. Like imposter syndrome is still something that I struggle with.
Yeah, I think imposter syndrome is something we all struggle with at varying times. And I had a real moment last week where I had a complete wobble, and I just, all my confidence went out the window. And I was speaking to my colleague about it actually, and how interesting it is that as you get older, your confidence actually gets worse and worse, doesn't it?
Yes, because now they call me a senior.
Yeah.
And it's even more stressful because I'm like, what? No, I'm not a developer anymore. I'm a senior developer. So I guess I have to be even better. And am I? You know.
And I think in engineering as well, in like software engineering, the technology changes so quick. So you're never, once you 1 minute you think you're a real expert in something and you're getting somewhere and you're becoming a senior in it. And then the next minute something new's coming and you're like back to square one and you've got to learn it.
Yeah, you have to learn, but I think you are learning every day from experience alone.
Yeah, exactly. So when did you transfer across to Ruby then?
I transferred, so I went doing e-commerce in PHP, and then I was not feeling really good at that place. So I left to do some Ruby. Yeah.
Okay, amazing, fantastic. And that's your key technology that you've been working on for a few years now, which is fantastic.
Yeah. And it was really hard at the beginning to feel like I regressed. Because I was
because you have to take a step backwards to take a step forward, don't you? And you have to take a bit of a leap of faith. Obviously, the principles are similar.
So I spent my vacation with a big book on Ruby, trying to learn as fast as I could, but it didn't really work because, of course, you learn when you do. So
yeah, exactly. And so tell me about your responsibilities as a senior developer now then.
Well, I would say it's that's a trick question. How is it different than than a normal developer? I don't know. But I'd say it's mostly being attentive to what is asked and in how much time you can do it, and not go. How do you say? Not sometimes sometimes junior developers, they will go all over the place, and I'd say I mostly learn how to stay focused on the task.
Yeah. So you're focusing and completing certain pieces of work within time, like more. And I guess are you mentoring and supporting junior developers as well?
Not at Doctolib because I'm too new, but I did a lot of mentoring in my previous job where I hired a junior developer. She had maybe 1 year, 2 years experience. And they told me, you can hire her if you want, but she has to be on your team and you have to mentor her.
How did you find that?
I was like, okay, cool. That's super cool. Yeah. And I loved it because I could do some pair programming every day with her. And you learn a lot by doing pair programming, even if you're the one leading.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. And it's great to be able to support someone else who learn and develop. And I think being able to do that, you're giving back so much. Okay, cool. What about challenges faced as a woman in tech then? Over the years, obviously you've got a few years commercial experience. What sort of challenges have you faced, Alice?
I'd say mostly the hardest one was very clearly sexist comments in the workplace.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'd say that was the hardest because you don't know how to react.
And where was that at the start of your career or even to this kind of day that you still?
No, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen anymore. But at the start of my career, yes, definitely. Yeah. And it's really hard to not freeze in the moment. So that's what I did a lot. I mostly froze and didn't know what to say. And came back home at night feeling like crap. I'd say.
And angry, so angry.
Yeah, so angry at myself because I was like, you replay the thing all day.
What you should have said.
Yeah, so you never.
But isn't that weird? You're angry. You leave a situation like that and you're angry at yourself when it's not your. It's not your fault at all. You were put in a position that you should never have been put in. Yeah. And completely on the spot. It's so difficult.
Yeah, and I think it's also more difficult when you are a junior because obviously you have a lot to learn, so you don't have confidence. So it's even harder without the confidence about your work.
Yeah, I think as well, and when you're junior, you like you're always second guess things, don't you? Like, is it something to do with your work, or you think maybe I misheard them. Do you think that sometimes? Maybe they didn't really say that. Maybe I've just made that up or something like that. And you make excuses for people when really you shouldn't. Did you have a situation where you managed to find the confidence to speak back?
I mean, it happened once on a daily morning meeting, where my coworker asked me if I was on my period.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Which is crazy, and it took me by surprise so much that I answered yes, because I wanted to, kind of get back to him and get back at him and make him feel uncomfortable if possible, because I was feeling so angry. And so so he told me that it was something that my answer was disgusting, which is also interesting.
He said that?
Yeah. And then, so that was the big one where I
That's
actually
unbelievable.
Yeah, that's the thing that made me go see my manager.
Yeah. What level was he at? Was he more senior than you?
Yes. I mean,
you know that we get them every month. They come every month for every woman for about 30.
So if he asked every morning, you know, at some point it's gonna. Yeah. So
what did your manager say to you about the situation?
Oh, the manager said, well, I cannot change how people think, but I can ask him to not make those kind of remarks at work. Basically, he said, I'm not gonna change how he is, but I'm gonna change how he acts.
And I'm assuming you probably didn't stay there for very long after that.
And then it pretty much stopped, but then I was being teased like, oh, what are you gonna do now? Go speak to the manager, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a pretty awful experience. And I was already feeling bad with my imposter syndrome, as you know. So the whole thing was a really bad experience.
It's so awful, isn't it, to make someone feel that uncomfortable in the workplace?
Yeah.
Where it's got nothing to do with your work.
Yeah.
It's just, it's crazy, isn't it, that people still make.
And I was too surprised to really be able to react.
Yeah.
Because you think you will be all, oh, you don't speak to me like that, blah, blah, blah. This is inappropriate and everything. But no, in real life, you're going to freeze or.
It's funny, isn't it? It's interesting when you get put in these situations and you always then send, like we said earlier, you spend ages second guessing what you could have said and what you should have said and how you should have done it and how you should have reacted. But ultimately, you've been put in a position that you never should have been put in. Those comments should not be made. So it doesn't, your actions beyond that.
Yeah.
It's hard to control, isn't it? And I think hindsight's a wonderful thing, but it's also the most annoying thing in the world because you sit there replaying situations. I guess all we can do is learn and share these experiences so other people aren't put in similar situations in the future. And if they are, they know how to kind of combat that and handle that. I think interestingly earlier, actually, before we came on the podcast, we were discussing challenges faced by women in tech in France, actually, which is something that I hadn't thought of before. Obviously, in the UK, we have a big focus on job descriptions, unconscious bias, etc. But you mentioned that all job specifications in France are done in sort of like the male side of the language. So all the job descriptions you're applying for, it's like he, him, etc. Right?
I mean, not really, because legally, in the title of the job description, you have to say he or her, he or she, or him or her. So in the title, yes, but the thing is that French is a really gendered language, kind of like Spanish. So if you say, I am looking for a developer, then developer is the male version of the word.
Yeah.
And you have to be really purposeful on how you do it. If you want to do developer, male / developer, female. Yeah. And that's the kind of things that companies are going to do to be more inclusive in the language.
Yeah. And is it common practice now to make it more gender neutral, or they're working towards it?
It is, but you have to be purposeful about it, because if you don't think about it, you're not just going to use male words.
You naturally fall to the male side of it, don't you?
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Because in French, if you say she's a teacher, then teacher is gendered. You know what? Every word is gendered, so by default, I'd say it's more. It's gonna be the male word that's gonna be used. And what I liked at Doctolib is that they are really trying to be really conscious about that.
Yeah.
And
tell me about that then. What you've noticed that Doctolib did right, I think, for diversity and inclusion, because that's so important.
Well, first they are actually concerned about it. Yeah. Which is good. So that's the first step. Yeah. And they accept that people will take some of their time to work on that. And you can be independent and change some of the wordings that are too gendered. And people can propose better ideas and say, oh, I don't know, here this wording, I think it says patient, but the patient, the French word for patient is male. So maybe we can use another turn of phrase to make it work better and everything.
That's great. Yeah, it's all about being conscious, isn't it? And
yes.
being able to try and strive to do a better job, which is the main thing, isn't it? We've all got to work to continuous improvement to be able to help make a positive impact. What about the next generation then? What challenges do you expect they'll face, and what can we do to help them?
Well, that's a good question, and I'm not sure what to say. The next generation, I hope will be helped by what the women in tech are doing right now. And I hope they can use the power of networking. Because that's how I found one of the jobs that I had where I was feeling so well in the company, and unfortunately it ended because of a COVID crisis. But I was feeling so onboarded and just at home when I came at work.
Oh, that's a shame, isn't it?
That's a shame. And how I found the job was by networking. So I went to a Women in Tech lunch. And I talked to some women there who told me, oh, we feel really good at our job. It's there. And I was like, okay. And I wasn't feeling so good at my job. So I just started the interview process, and it was a really good thing. So I guess what the next generation should do is really try to get as much advice as they can.
Yeah, the mentoring and support from the community. Is that quite big then in Paris? Is there a good tech scene?
I think so. I mean, right now I'm not really into it anymore because of the COVID thing.
No one is. It's tough, isn't it?
Yes, it's tough. But there is actually a good scene. There is the Paris Ruby thing, so it's for all things Ruby that I participated in a few times, and you have quite a lot of women in tech events coming up. So I'd say that's what I should have done, and I hope next generation will do is be good at networking.
Yeah, I think there's so much support out there, isn't there? But you just have to be quite proactive in finding it. And I think it's quite easy to be said, isn't it, when you're a little bit more, when you've got some more experience behind your back. But I think even from a junior level, if you're at university or you're doing a training scheme or you're looking to move into a new career, even start then, because there's so many people out there that are happy to support you. I think it's really important just approaching and having these discussions, and people are always willing to lend their ear and give some support and advice.
Exactly.
I think it's just asking the question, isn't it, is so important. Okay.
And even recruiting events are a really good place. Maybe you won't find a job, maybe you're not even looking for a job, but it's still a good place to find new people to talk to.
Yeah, exactly, to connect. And we need more that more than ever at the moment, don't we? Okay. So after so many years software development, what's your greatest achievement today?
You know, I saw the question and I was like, I don't know what to answer at all. No, I'd say I was pretty good in my career at evolving at every job I got. So every step is better than the last.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? Just even if it's a little bit, don't move across, step up.
So that's something I'm really proud of. I think I evolved every time to maybe, let's say, the Doctolib hiring process. Maybe I would not have been able to do it 2 years ago.
What was the Doctolib hiring process then?
Oh, you know, just plenty of tests, technical tests, and then interviews and everything. And just the way I worked at my previous job allowed me to be able to be successful at the Doctolib hiring process.
Interesting question for you here. As a developer, what do you think is the best way to be interviewed to get the most out of your skill set? Because it's something I often chat with devs is, do they want to be tech tested? Do they want pair programming? Do they not want to be tested at all? Like what do you think is the best way to get the best out of engineers?
I really think it depends on the personality, because I did a few interviews where it was a whiteboard test, which for me is super stressful, and I failed so bad once. I looked ridiculous, like someone would never who didn't know anything about development. It was a nightmare. And another one I really
such a shame, isn't it, to be discounted from a role that could have been great for you?
I felt like a fool, like seriously. And also, I think the best way to interview would be to maybe leave the option, because I don't have kids, but if you have kids, maybe you don't have time to spend 6 hours on a test at home, and you want to do the interview on the whiteboard thing and be done in 1 hour.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and if you're really stressed like me, doing a whiteboard interview is not gonna work as well. So I think it really depends, and the more you are as an employer being able to adapt.
Yeah. Well, treating people as individuals is so important, isn't it? Not like one size fits all, because it's not going to fit all. And like you say, you've got some engineers. I mean, I know candidates that are active, or they've been made redundant and they need to find their next job, and they're doing 8 tech tests in a week. And you're just like,
you have to be respectful of the
personal time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, these could like, if any of my clients are
because I cannot do 5 tests that take me 8 hours. That's not reasonable.
Because most of the time you're working at the same time as well.
Exactly.
But like, if you mean like an hour or an hour and a half, then that might be doable. But give people time to do it, rather than being like, I've got a 4-hour tech test, you need to do it tonight. It's just not going to happen.
My personal feeling is that after so many hours, it looks like working for free.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah, it does look like that. Yeah. Actually, interestingly, we've got an event organised for next week, which is about sustainability in open source, which is going to be really interesting, because that's basically all about working for free, isn't it? And how open source technology.
Yeah, but it's not like, in the interview process, you can be kind of losing your time also, and you're doing that.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's so tough to get it right, isn't it? And like you say, not one size fits all, to be treated as individual.
And what I liked at Doctolib is that the hiring process was very, how do you say, precise. Let's say. So you show up at the interview, they know what they want to do, the questions are blah blah blah, and it's very, and you kind of have a nice time at the same time, because
you knew what to expect, and it was quite transparent then. That's good,
but the thing is that I did so many interviews as an interviewer that for me it's pretty easy.
Because you've been doing it at your stage in your career now. Okay. Interesting. That's good. I think it's just about mainly getting the best out of people, isn't it? Is really important. Who's been your greatest role model, Alice?
Well, that's another question I was thinking about, and I wouldn't say I have one. I'd say it's more of the women I met during my career that helped me when I was feeling maybe low or down, and that empowered me and helped me, let's say, before, how do you say, the yearly interview.
That
helped me ask for some raises, for...
So before you went into your annual review, you'd go to them and ask for some guidance and support.
I'm so stressed, I don't know what to ask, blah, blah, blah. And so I met a few women that helped me a lot at work, that by being open about, let's say, how much they make, how much I deserve, that helped me meet other people and everything. And it's more of a network of women, I'd say.
I think it's easy if you work in like engineering or something, and you've been with one company for 9 years, and you're in this little bubble, and you're doing a great job, and but then as soon as you step outside the bubble, you realize how much other people are being paid, aren't they, in the market? And it's important that you are making sure that you are paid accordingly to the market, not just because you work for a company for 9 years.
And most of the women I met are really, really open about saying how much they make to each other in private.
Yeah, that's really good. Trusting that. And who are they, so we can give them a shout out?
I was really empowered by my 2 friends at work, Marina and Sophie, if you come.
And which way did they work with you?
Excuse me?
Which company did they work with you, Marina and Sophie?
It was Job Teaser.
Oh, amazing. That's so great. And you still stay in touch with them now?
I do.
Good. Okay, cool. What about words of wisdom then? We love to finish the podcast with any words of advice that you tell your younger self. So if you were to go back to way back when you graduated and you went freelancing, what words of wisdom would you give yourself, Alice?
I would go a little bit before and tell myself to listen more in classes. I know that sounds cliche, but that's true. And I would also tell myself that if I think I'm being underpaid, or if I think that a comment is sexist, it probably is.
Yeah. So make sure that you're able to call people out on that and ask.
Yeah,
And
not let myself come back home and feel down for so much. Yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it? When you think about that now and those times. But yeah, I think, like you say, stand up for yourself then.
Yeah.
Stand up for yourself.
Maybe you are not able to stand up for yourself, which is okay, but you can find people who will be able to listen to you.
Yeah, exactly.
And give you advice, people with more experience, maybe.
Amazing. So if anyone wants to reach out to you, Alice, can they connect? Is it LinkedIn, Twitter? What's the best form of contact?
They can on LinkedIn. I do not have Twitter.
Okay, LinkedIn. Okay, lovely. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Alice. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much for receiving me.